Richician!
Hey YouTube, Richician84 here, and welcome to Q&A number 125. Let's kick it off. So the first question is once again from Pokemaster Cube. If you can add a mechanic from another card game, what would it be? Well, since I don't play other card games, I'm not really familiar with other mechanics. Does a mulligan count? As it would be nice if Yu-Gi-Oh had a mulligan option, even if it's just once at the very start of the duel. As well, as I'm sure you appreciate, I really hate getting bad hands, especially bad opening hands, as I'm sure you would understand. It's just so annoying, and bricking is one of the ways that I hate losing, as like, I don't really get a chance to do anything, and I just feel powerless to do anything to stop anything my opponent does, or fight back. Although it doesn't come up that often, it has come up way too many times. Even when I side, there's been, in tournaments, there's been way too many cases where I've sided in cards for a matchup, and I don't draw anything I've sided in, which is also really infuriating. So, yeah, definitely give us a mulligan rule. Yeah, I might talk more about that later on. Next two questions are from Matt and Alison Welch. 1. Which Duel Monsters boss monster from one of the protagonists in the anime would you like to see get support next? Maybe Super Robo Yaru. I keep forgetting that exists, but that would make sense to give that more support, since all the cards for it were only in Legacy of Darkness, and that was it. There's been nothing since. And it's been, what, over 20 years since Legacy of Darkness came out? Coming up to 21? So that would be good. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else. I think pretty much everything's been covered. Actually, wait, no, that's a lie. Magician Girls. Alright, yeah, only Dark Magician Girl was in the original series anime, but of course, the archetype is in the manga universe, because of Dark Side of Dimensions. So, yeah. Alright, maybe. I know this isn't really a boss monster. Well, actually, yes, it is, because Dark Magician Girl is technically a boss monster, but Magician Girls definitely need more support, because what we have already just isn't enough. I mean, it needs so much more to be able to stand better chances of winning more games. They keep getting cucked in some way or another. And of course, I've been unlucky in various competitions that have been on this channel, or Team Sorcerers. Yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. 2. Just like Spell Card Monster Reborn being announced and having Dark Magician in the artwork, but it's not even Dark Magician support. they announced spell card Soul Exchange, which has Blue Eyes White Dragon in the artwork. What are your thoughts on it, and what could it do? Sounds interesting. I wonder, I wonder if we're going to get any more of these, and whether or not this will be a spell card archetype, just referencing the original series. I feel like this, well, as the name suggests, it would have a similar effect to Soul Exchange and Soul Crossing. Um, Maybe it could just simply be the anime version of Soul Exchange and make it function like Soul Crossing, but it could work for any high level monster, not just the Egyptian gods. That would be really cool, and would actually be very handy for similar archetypes. You know, the wicked gods, the earthbound immortals. I mean, this could help those out big time if it had that effect. So yeah, those are my thoughts. And the last lot of questions are from Sparkman91. So yeah, not a lot of questions in this episode. Of course I say that and it might end up being half an hour long. But first, some more Sonic trivia for all you fellow Sonic fans. Sonic Underground wasn't the first time Sonic was in a band. An early concept showed Sonic was supposed to be part of a band. Most of the members were lost due to time, but Vector the Crocodile went on to appear in Knuckles' Chaotix. I did not know that, no. That's fascinating. Also, thumbs up if you ever watched Sonic Underground. I didn't see all the episodes, I only saw a few of them, and that did inspire some stories in my own fan-made Sonic comic, which I talked about in a separate video. Also, did you know that Sonic 06 was originally going to be on the Wii? They couldn't get the game to run well due to the Wii being a lot weaker than the 360 and PlayStation 3. This version of the game would eventually become Sonic and the Secret Rings. That might be why I hadn't heard of that game a lot until recent years, as well, there is a Wii somewhere in the house, but I never got Sonic and the Secret Rings, but I did watch a gameplay video of it during lockdown. It was one of many things to do to try and pass the time and relieve boredom. God, what a time lockdown was. Anyway, I also did not know this Sonic trivia fact. So yeah, that is fascinating. And now for the questions. 1. Thoughts on Max C? From a modern context with my experience in Master Duel, I can't stand this card and hope it... I'm assuming that's meant to say never, not next. Gotta love autocorrect. Hope it never comes back. However, I have heard many people argue in much older formats like Tengu and Hat the card as fine as a good side deck option to keep crazy combo decks in check. What are your thoughts on that? Well, I like Max C. It's my second favourite hand trap, first being Battle Fader, and I guess it's my second favourite insect, with the first one being good old Man-Eater Bug. But yeah, I can understand both people's views on Max C. I mean, it is great to keep combo decks or OTK decks or what have you in check, but at the same time, it can cause a lot of bullshit situations where, like, in one scenario, it can just stop you pretty much playing and going off, and then it just forces you to sort of end your turn just because you don't want the opponent drawing lots and lots of cards, or it forces the other scenario, which of course is the Max C challenge, where you just go for it and try to overwhelm the opponent, maybe even game them as quickly as possible, while hoping they don't draw into some bullshit hand trap that just ruins everything, or hope the opponent doesn't draw anything to turn things around in their favour. Of course, that's not the case a lot of the time. So yeah, I am sort of on the fence about Maxi. I mean, I do love it, but I'm just not sure it should come back, really. Um, I mean, it could be kind of bullshit. I mean, if it goes back to free, then there'll just be too many situations, um, which are the ones I just described. Whereas if it comes back up one, um, that's just as annoying, because it can be one of those uh, limited sacky cards that you can just draw into and could give you a lot of advantage. Um, just like Change of Heart and Snatch Steal. Like, seriously, Konami, what were you thinking unbanning two of the most degenerate spells in the game? Reban them! Anyway, that's another story. Um, but as for older formats, it wasn't really that much of an issue, I felt. I, I don't feel like decks were as OTK combo orientated as they are today. Of course, Tengu Plant might be another case, but then again, Tengu Plant didn't really spam out negates. I don't know if it really counts as an OTK deck either. Um, I don't know. I mean, it might just be me, but it didn't seem too bad in 5Ds and Zexal eras, and you could still play around it. Of course, that might not be the case, but that's how it seemed to be from my experience. Not to mention that when it came out, it was ridiculously expensive and hard to get, and not everyone had the pleasure of being able to get one, at least not until its collectible tin reprint. Because I was really hoping to get one in the March 2012 format as a way to get round the stupid wind-up loop, because the hope there was to activate it, and then if they kept trying to loop cards out of my hand, I would just keep drawing them, and then I'd be able to bounce back from the loop. Of course, it would have been even better if Wind Up Hunter was preemptively banned on the March 12 ban list, but no, that wasn't the case, and of course we ended up with one of the worst ban lists ever, and one of the shittest formats ever. I know certain people who like Dark World will have absolutely loved it, but I for one fucking hated it because of Dark World and wind-ups. I mean, screw Chaos Dragons, Dino Rabbit and Insectors. I didn't really care about them, even though they were tough decks. I was just more annoyed with wind-ups and Dark World. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Max C. 2. What are your thoughts on the Legendary Duelist series? I feel like personally they have always been a bit rubbish and contribute to too many products being released. Well, I suppose the recent ones haven't been great. I mean, but I for one absolutely loved the first lot of them, especially Legendary Duelist 6 Magical Hero, my personal favourite of all of them. But yeah, the first 7 were absolutely fantastic. I mean, the others were kind of meh. I mean, they were great for fans of the archetypes that came with those. But I do see what you mean there, and I guess the Fire Legendary Duelist one definitely did contribute to too many products being released last year. 3. When do you think is the best time to ban a card? I think unless it's game breaking, you should be able to get enough time to play and enjoy the cards you paid for. Well, I suppose that is a fair point, but I honestly think that we should get a ban list every 3 or 4 months, or at least every 4 months, like it used to be, because when we were getting it every 6 months, it was way too long to wait. Whereas 3 or 4 was just fine. Then again, maybe 3 is a bit too short, whereas if it's 4, I feel like that's the right balance. But yeah, I really don't like that Konami just seem to release a ban list whenever they want and have done since 2015, which is really irritating for the community, because like we don't know when a ban list is gonna drop, and we're just left completely unprepared, not knowing when it's gonna happen or what could get hit, and then it just comes out of nowhere. And I don't really like Konami's reasoning behind it. Like, in fact, this was something me and Neo Nexodus briefly discussed in one of his videos. I mean, when we talked about an OCG list, and we were saying that Konami were like, oh, but if we release a list every 3 months, we can't evaluate the meta properly. It's like, so just release it every 4 months. Because then, like I said, it's not too long, not too short, and 4 months should surely be plenty of time to evaluate the meta and see what gets hit, and what should come back. But yeah, basically, just give us, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, give us a ban list schedule again. Like, put them on certain dates so that way we know when it's gonna drop. I mean, I appreciate that they do give us like a week's notice or a few days' notice when they release a ban list, before a date where it would go into effect, but it would still be better if we had fixed dates on when a ban list drops, so that way people can be better prepared, for a ban list. Yeah, that's what I think anyway. I mean, there is more I could say about Konami and ban this, but I feel like it's stuff I've said already, and I don't want this to be too long. Next question. 4, yeah, 4. What are some of your favourite sets in Yu-Gi-Oh? Doesn't have to be main sets, could be Megatin or side set. Well, I actually did already answer this question, like, in an older Q&A episode. Although, to be fair, it has been a while, and I don't even remember what episode it was, so I can understand this question coming up again, but I do have several favourite sets. I mean, I can list them all off, not just some of them. Battle of Chaos, Magician's Force, which is my favourite original series set, Legendary Collections 2 and 3, The Dark Illusion, Elemental Energy, which is my favourite GX set, Legendary Duelist 6, as I mentioned earlier, Duelist Pack Yugi, the Dark Side of Dimensions movie pack. the first one with all the ultra rares, not the gold version or the secret version. Power of the Elements, Dual Power, Duelist Saga, even though those were badly designed, Generation Force, which is my favourite Zexal set, Stardust Overdrive, which is my favourite 5D set, and Magnificent Mavens. They were just all absolutely fantastic in their own right. Mainly because most of these had Dark Magician and Elemental Hero support, which I am a fan of and I'm going to jump on. What's this, question 5? Thoughts on them, I assume them being Konami, adding a new mechanic or master rule. It's been 4 years since the 2020 Master Rule revision, and 7 years since Link Monsters were introduced, which was the last summoning mechanic. Well, in regards to a summoning mechanic, I'm going to say no, 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 hell no! Please, no more summoning mechanics. I mean, there's enough of them as it is, and the game has just changed and evolved way too much already, and not for the better. And if we keep releasing new summoning mechanics, it's just going to be too much, especially for new players or returning players, and it can be really overwhelming for them. Or if we do get a new kind of monster, it should have a red border, because besides the unplayable Slife of the Sky Dragon, we don't have cards with red borders yet. But yeah, no summoning mechanics, please. And as for a master rule, there are 3 things that I feel like Konami should introduce if they were to bring in a new master rule. Adding in a mulligan rule, as I discussed earlier, would be cool, although it wouldn't be a big deal. But here's what I would really like, and they're actually 2 of the rules that I added to my own custom format, which I keep mentioning. 1, let whoever goes first draw again. Change things back to the way they were before Master Rule 3 was a thing. Because, despite what people say, that was a stupid, pointless bullshit rule change. I mean, it has been argued that they did it because whoever went first was at too much of an advantage, but then it's like, well, now whoever goes second is at too much of an advantage. Which I feel like is the case, because, like I said before, I just feel like whoever goes first is at an unfair disadvantage in terms of card numbers that they start with. But then again, if you have a really consistent deck with lots of draw power, search power, or abilities to special summon something from the deck, or set cards, or activate cards from the deck, then it doesn't matter. But still, it can be an issue for lower tier decks. So, yeah, I would really like it if the first turn rules were changed back. I'm sure not everyone will agree, but it's my opinion, god damn it. And also, another rule is increase the extra deck limit to 20, or if not that, 18. And I have been asking for this for over a decade now. I really want there to be a 20 card extra deck limit, especially for decks that just don't have room for everything. I mean, this is an issue mainly for hero players, but I'm sure other kinds of decks have this same issue. The problem is we have 4 different extra deck monsters now, and we're just running out of space. Same could be said for just hero support in general. I mean, we do occasionally get some sort of new support, including fusion monsters, but it's getting to that point now where it's getting really difficult to fit in everything that you need to play and want to play, um, and upping the limit can help out with that. Now, I know this would be an issue and would make synchron decks too good. In fact, I know synchron players and anything that runs TG Hyper Librarian could just abuse a 20 card extra deck limit so much, but I have a solution to that. Just ban Hyper Librarian. That's one problem solved. Um, or even Junk Speeder if need be. I mean, it's said that when it comes to synchrons, that is the problem. Well, I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion on that, but I think the problem is that synchrons keep spamming out boards of negates, which is just annoying and bullshit, and it's just boring and unoriginal. So yeah, I also say just ban the negates. No Quasar, no Blazer, hell, even no shooting Majestic Star Dragon, even though that relies more on the Majestic package. As yeah, I mean, I for one just fucking hate negates. They're just irritating, take all the fun out of the game, and are just bad for the game. In fact, they're one of the reasons why I stopped playing in normal tournaments and why I'm gonna eventually quit current format Yu-Gi-Oh! So, yeah, at least if Konami do get rid of Librarian, Speeder, Shooting Majestic, Shooting Quasar, and Cosmic Blazer, regardless of whether there's a change in the extra deck limit or not, at least it would force synchrons to do something else, you know? Um, um, but, yeah, that's all I think they need to do, really. Next question. How do you go about teaching someone how to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, I guess I'd start with the basics first. One method I did, which is what I showed Emma when, like back in 2012, was just playing with each other's hands revealed, which obviously you don't do in a normal game, but when teaching, I feel like just playing out a game and playing it with hands revealed is a good way of teaching. Because at least you have the basics, your monsters, spells, traps, know how they work, or rather help them figure out how it works, and then worry about the extra stuff later on. Yeah, that's one way of doing that, and is a good method. And I feel like that did help Emma out a lot. I think I used this method when she was getting back into it in 2022. But yeah, that's all there is really. Just explain what each of the three cards are and just how you play them, and then just have a practice game with the hands revealed and just talking them through it as we go along. Next question. What are some of your favourite underrated decks? One of mine has to be Utopia. Despite it being a protagonist deck, I don't see it get a lot of play outside of the time it was in meta in Duel Links, which I always find a bit weird since it can make some very impressive turn 1 boards. Ooh, there's quite a lot of underrated decks. But I don't know if this is in general or whether it's decks that I've played. But I don't really know about decks that I've not played, but I can list quite a few. In fact, I did kind of cover this when I did my 6-part video series, top 60 favourite decks of all time. However, one deck that I've really been enjoying lately is Novellis, which I'm pretty sure I did show in some Edo Pro games on here, or have yet to, and that made me want to play the deck in real life. So yeah, little mini deck update announcement, even though this is not that sort of video. For those who don't know, I've decided to actually build the Novellas deck, the Hungry Burger deck, even though I said that I wasn't going to build or rebuild any more decks. Now I want to play that in real life, and I'm still debating whether or not to make my own Melfi deck, while also debating whether or not to merge my Elemental Hero and Rainbow Neos decks into one deck. So yes, Express Gaming, you finally got one of your wishes. I am gonna make the Hungry Burger deck for real. I have some cards already, which I got from the Tabletop Republic bulk, but I'm gonna try and avoid buying the rest of the cards if I can and pick it up in trades. That being said, though, I was talking about the set that this stuff came out in, Wild Survivors, to Emma the other day, and she's considering getting me a box of Wild Survivors as a Valentine's present. I mean, she doesn't have to do that, of course, since I know we are trying to save money for various things, including the wedding. I mean, if she does get it, that's fantastic. If not, fair enough. I can still try and pick up the singles in trades. I'd have to let you guys know what I still need for the deck. What was I saying? Oh yeah, underrated decks. Sorry, I went off topic a bit there. Yeah, in terms of other decks, other underrated ones I like are, well, I would have to agree, Utopia as well, because I used to play it as well. But obviously I don't play Hope Harbinger in mind, because fuck Hope Harbinger. Yeah, that's my favourite Zexal archetype, which I had some fun with. Same with my own crazy creations that I've made over the years. The deck full of cards, Plant Hero, Evil Ubel Hero, Blade Edge Beatdown. What else was there? Cats, which of course I still have, which, according to the guys at TTR, were just raving about, along with the fact that it did confuse some people, including Kai, and they didn't know what the boss monster was and what the end game was, even though there's no particular strategy to it, it's just cute nonsense. I don't know whether or not to play it in a future Tabletop Republic tournament, though. We'll see. What else is there? Generic plants. What else was there? Neos Wise Man. I mean, Neos Kluger helped it out big time, even though I've not had the deck in real life for years. Generic Warriors, generic Machines, even though they weren't as impressive as they used to be, like back in the original series and GX eras. Uh, my Elementor Mariner deck, definitely. Uh, I guess that's all I can think of, really. Um, I mean, I would say Magician Girls, but sometimes I feel like they're too hit and miss. I mean, which is why I said earlier that they need more support. Excuse me. Need more support. Oh God, I'm gonna. God, what are the chances I've got a cold coming? Right, we're almost there, guys. To end the end of Dark January. How many times has Dark Magician been banished, and which one was the worst time? I would have to say 3 times, but that was over the course of the last 2 minor league tournaments. 2 this week, which I already talked about in my tournament report, and then there was last week, which was the worst one, when Guy banished Dark Magician with Call by the Grave, which I was not happy about. It wasn't my original copy, mind you, but it's still a Dark Magician, and like I said, I will make him pay dearly for that. And what made it worse was that it ruined a play I wanted to do. Although not completely. It just slowed me down a lot. As he had an indestructible Fright First Sabretooth plus something else, and my plan was to use Master of Chaos to tribute Dark Magician and Artemis to banish his monsters. But the cheeky sod banished Dark Magician when I tried to bring it back with Master of Chaos, and then as a result I had to resort to tributing Master of Chaos himself along with the Artemis to clear his board. I still had Jizukiru and did 3300, but wasn't enough in the end. In fact, I come to think of it, let's see. Wait, I didn't do any damage at all? I could have sworn I managed to successfully hit him directly for 3300. What was it he did that stopped me? Oh, he must have used Edgim's Scythe to bring out something in defence. It's the only thing I can think of. Maybe I need to look back. Maybe he used Scythe to bring out Cruel Whale and pop Jizukiru. If that's the case, that's still really annoying, because if it hadn't been for Called By, I would have had Master of Chaos and Jizukiru on board, and even if he popped one of those monsters, I still would have had a monster on board. But I suppose it wouldn't have made a difference. Yeah, that was annoying. I'm still trying to think of ways to beat Fright Furs. I'm working on a side deck that can help me specifically counter his Fluffle deck. So, if you or anyone else has any other ideas, do let me know. Because, yeah, like I said, I want revenge, and I want to get a match win over him for once. And finally, non-Yu-Gi-Oh question. What's worse, train strikes or technical problems, issues with cameras, PCs and whatnot? That is a very good question, my friend. A very good question indeed. Something I hadn't really thought about. I'd have thought they'd be as bad as each other. Uh, I suppose maybe technical problems. I mean, train strikes are annoying, but at least there are ways to work around them. Maybe not all the time, um, but like I said, there are ways around them, even though it forces me to replan something. Whereas with technical issues, they're difficult to fix because then I'd have to fork out money to either get something fixed or get a replacement. I mean, like I said, there've been cameras I owned which would cost me over £200, and then they end up mysteriously breaking or malfunctioning, and it's like, great, that's all that money down the drain. And if I can't get it fixed, then I'm just forced to use other things, which is just irritating. I mean, I don't even want to think about what would happen if something went wrong with my iPad. Like if something went wrong with that, I have nothing left to record dual videos with. Even using those two cameras that I mentioned in that rant video wouldn't be ideal. In fact, there was one issue with one of them that I forgot to mention. The screen on one of them stopped working. Now, I can still use it to transfer data off a memory card, but I can't really use it for recording videos. And like I said, one of them has audio that's too quiet, whereas I don't have a lot of batteries for them, and the batteries just don't last as long as I'd like. But yeah, losing the iPad would just affect this channel a lot. All I'd have left is my phone and the screen recording program I'm using right now. And then I'd be very limited on what sort of content I'd be uploading. And at that point I'd be like, is it even worth me carrying on making videos for YouTube? That's a bridge I'd have to cross when I get to it. And yeah, this did end up being longer than I thought it would, even though only 3 of you submitted questions. But yes, that is it for questions in this episode. Thank you very much for your guys' questions, very cool ones as always. And if you've got any other questions you want to ask me, post them in the comments down below. And remember, I do these episodes every Tuesday afternoon or evening, UK time, so be sure to get your questions in before then, so that you don't miss out. Thanks again, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Richician YouTube channel.